Religious diversity.
Very different.
Well, it was the beginning for a place that has been throughout its history very exclusive on a lot of different grounds. And it put in place principles that were deeper than what Wilson was himself. And that is what we need to recognize, I need to recognize, I believe that I have to recognize about his contributions to history. Like virtually every historical figure that I know, he did some things that were blameworthy and terribly blameworthy, but he also did some things that mattered and that made the world better.
But the principles can continue to flourish without you honoring him as an individual. I don't, we are the students who make those things matter now, and so you have to respect the people who are actually walking the halls today.
We absolutely have to respect the people who are walking the halls today. And that is one reason why I said I agree that we need to be explicit and recognize the racism of Woodrow Wilson, and we shouldn't venerate him or regard him as a god.
But an image is that.
We're venerating him. We're saying that it's him that we want to shape the ideology behind how these students approach public policy.
And I don't understand how you can equate him being, doing all of these great things with him having his name on the building. You can feel free to honor him, say whatever, you praise him, and say whatever, but that doesn't have anything to do with having his name on the building. You can easily take his name off that building, and he can still be praised by you, by the faculty administration, Professor Dolan, and anybody else that wants to honor him. Y'all can, come together, have parties, honor Woodrow Wilson. That has nothing to do with him having to have his name on the building. It isn't one or the other. It doesn't have to be we going to praise him by having his name. We can easily praise him. I don't see Dr. King with no building on his name, but he's still praised. I don't understand why his name has to be on the building in order for us to acknowledge the great things that he's done.
Don't y'all sing a song at preview for him?
Yeah. Oh my God!
I just want to know every time they come in who Woodrow Wilson is.
I think also what's important to remember is that by just making the statement to the student body, releasing something like, I acknowledge Wilson's racist legacy, it's not enough. You have to make a radical change before the little things even stick. So you need to, I think it's important to make that step before anyone will lift it to the first part of what we're saying.
Conversations. History is painful and complicated. Even as a white woman, I walk on this campus every day and I'm surrounded by iconography that doesn't reflect me. I think what it must be like to be a student of color on this campus and see yourself reflected nowhere. We have to fix that. We simply have to fix that. Names are historical. Names bear a certain kind of historical weight. They demand, as far as I'm concerned, critical engagement of the sort that you're bringing to this conversation. We have to keep having these conversations. We have to keep engaging critically. I'm not sure that anyone signing a document will be able to change things by tomorrow, but we can work together. No, but I know, and I appreciate, I think that's a really important action. All I'm saying is institutions are complicated, history is complicated, and Chris doesn't have the power to do everything.
We're not saying we want this signing, this is going to change things tomorrow. What we're saying is that you're pledging to work towards changing the name and everything else. Secondly, absolutely, I get what you're saying about history is complicated and having conversations, but we've been having conversations for a year. Literally next week will be the anniversary of the first protest on this campus. Last year.
We've done things, including
we have, and we haven't done enough.
That you made, and I agree with you about that. But I agree with you we can do it more than having conversations for the past.
It's been us waking up at 9 a.m. Earlier than 9 a.m. to have meetings at 9 a.m. and still go to class and still write essays and still participate in extracurricular activities. I'm tired of having conversations. At this point, it's time to actually make some. It's time to make some wheels move or something. Because we're just gonna be sitting here like.
Well, let me speak to the.
Can I have a question? Yeah, awesome. So a lot of what you're telling us is that history is painful and good people who have done good things have also done bad things. But I'm of the understanding that if someone was a terrible person, person, we wouldn't name things after them, right? We wouldn't name anything after Hitler if Hitler gave us money, right? So where's this bar that you're drawing? Where's this bar that we're drawing at which like the good outweighs the bad?
I think G. Nolan put it correctly when she said that names are historical, and I think you're right that there are hard judgments to be made about that. I think one has to look at the total set of contributions that somebody made and how they matter to a particular place and to the world. And I don't think I can give you a formula about that. I think it matters what historians have to tell us about Wilson, both about how bad, and I think it was quite bad, his racism was, and about how significant his contributions were. And I think an active conversation that goes well beyond email about that is very important.
The problem is though, right, that we've been having conversations for a year now. We've had so many conversations. I started to believe that you guys don't even talk to each other. There is a dean of this, a dean of that, a dean of this. Dean Dolan, you just like rolled up in here a couple months ago, but you have no idea how many meetings we have had with everybody named Dean on this campus. And we say the exact same things in every single meeting. Furthermore, I just want to just acknowledge the fact that we are here as students, but we still have to do our homework, we still have to go attend classes, and we still have other obligations, right? So not only do we have these meetings at 9 a.m. in the morning, meaning we have to wake up at least 8 a.m. in the morning, right? Head to class by 10 a.m., we are still students as well. The burden of our blackness is continuously placed upon us. I am tired of having conversations. I am tired of going to 9 a.m. meetings. I am tired of always having to explain my pain and explain all of these. Why is it that it's just not enough for you to understand what it's like to be black in this campus and to change that? Why do we always need to continuously explain these things? That is the problem in having so many conversations with so many people that do not even speak to each other and nothing gets done. It is a circle, continuously running around. You want to tire us out, but we are out here, we've been here, we ain't leaving, and we are loved.
It's starting to seem like it's very strategic on y'all's part, because to keep having these conversations, y'all are drawing out these processes to get things actually done on this campus. I don't know what's going on as far as like higher ups are concerned, but to me and to the rest of the BJL folks and folks in this room, it seems very strategic on y'all's part to tire us out. I'm a senior, I'm about to be out of the door, but there are other people in this room who have been doing this for a year or so, and honestly, nothing has been done. Nothing.
In your own words, Mr. Eisgruber, we're tired of having to convince you. Do something.
Right. Remember telling us that last year at the social and the racial diversity versus social economic diversity thing, and you said, "Oh, convince me why you don't feel comfortable here." Remember?
No, I remember this conversation, and I remember talking to you and saying that I can't remember what the claim was that somebody made, and saying that I wasn't persuaded of that, and that if you wanted me to act on it, I did need to be persuaded, and that continues to be the case. And one reason we have a lot of conversations at universities is a lot of it is about understanding things, and that is a process of having conversation. But I actually think over the past year we've gone far beyond conversation. So the task force issued recommendations. We're implementing those recommendations, including budget increases, including the addition of staff lines.
Could we get a glimpse into the bureaucratic process? Like how are you guys
Let me
about
tell you about the diversity requirement, because that's the thing that I touch most on. So the General Education Task Force is revising the diversity requirements. Dean Val Smith, who was my predecessor, announced she was leaving last February. That work was put on hold until I was appointed. In that time, because of the task force on diversity that the CPUC did, we were charged to consider a diversity requirement in the Gen Ed curriculum. That work is happening now. Honestly, I wish this work could be done tomorrow. It can't be because we have faculty input, we have administrative input, we have work with all of you, and I know you're tired of conversations. I hear that, and we're not trying to tire you out. These institutions are old, they're elaborate, they don't move as quickly as anyone would like them to move.
What is the time?
Let me tell you the timeline. We're working this semester. We're talking to people this semester. Next semester, the task force is going to put together a series of recommendations that will be delivered to the president in draft form by April. So in April, we will be able to say, here's why we think there should be a diversity requirement. Much of this rhetoric will be part of why that is. And then he can, there's also a board of trustees.
Okay, so you just said.
It's all in writing. It's all in writing. Y'all say things all the time, and then it.
I'm happy to write down this
So we
process.
said you already wrote the demand, so now all you gotta do is sign it. You said next semester you're gonna write. We wrote.
No, we're gonna, the Gen Ed task force is a task force that produces a report to the president. That's what we're gonna write. And I'm saying that your language is what will be part of what we're considering and why we're arguing there should be a diversity.
So okay, Dean Dolan, you just said that you're gonna be one of the recommendations is gonna be for the distributional requirement.
We're asked to, yes.
Okay, and then President Eisgruber, you previously just said you were in favor of the requirement. Okay, so that means that it's gonna happen next year, right?
That means we have to,
Well, there's agreement here. There's agreement. There's
No,
agreement.
no, no.
You just said.
Absolutely.
You just said.
So, let me tell you, if President Eisgruber and I had the power to make this happen tomorrow, we would.
Wait, so what is?
So
Okay.
here's the process.
Okay.
The task force does its work. My sense is that a lot of the members of the task force are for the diversity requirement, but we have to have conversations. We have to go through a process that will let the task force agree. We recommend it to the president. There's also a board of trustees who has to buy into these things, as well as faculty.
We here. We
It
here.
has to-
We been here. We ain't leaving.
We ain't leaving.
We are love.
We are love.
We here.
We here.
We been here.
We been here.
We ain't leaving.
We ain't leaving.
We are love.
We are love.
We here.
We here.
We been here.
We been here.
We ain't leaving.
We ain't leaving.
We are love.
We are loved.
I'm very glad that you're here. I want to say that, and I don't think, it's very good that you're here. And I'm sorry to be the bearer of a timetable that's laborious and long, but I can see the end of that timetable, where I think what you want will actually be what the whole faculty and administration wants.
I just
Are you sure about this? A year ago, President Eisgruber did not support this requirement.
Yep, you sure as
No,
not
he
did.
emailed, but
You
that
did
took
not.
me aback as well, and that's when you told me
Also,
what you were doing. He did
You
not
said the
have a
faculty
volunteer
wants it, but
member.
this is the same faculty. This is the same faculty who said it would be like trespassing their freedom.
That signed
Oh,
endorsed by President
Eisgruber.
Eisgruber, conflating two very different issues. This is a long-standing issue on this campus, conflating issues of free speech and avoiding conversations around hate speech and other institutionalized racist practices on this campus. We've talked about this a lot, and this has been a topic of conversation across college campuses, and I think it's important that you admit that those issues are very different, and addressing hate speech and other institutional racist practices are very different from silencing people and censoring speech. I think that is an important commitment on your part.
Inclusivity, and you can address inclusivity and support inclusivity, and at the same time support free speech.
But free speech
First of
should
all,
not
we
be
don't
a
even
part of
have
this
free speech
conversation.
at a private university. We don't
That
have
we
free
don't.
speech.
We
First
work
of all,
for
don't
it's a
have-
red flag.
Your speech rights that you're exercising now are important, and I think other speech rights that are.
Yeah, but if I go interrupt Robbie George's lectures, which somebody should at some point,
Yes.
then y'all gonna kick me out like we read that in Rights, Rules, and Responsibilities, like you don't have the right to do that in this institution. So first of all,
What about Robbie's lectures?
I said we were to go interrupt them.
Yeah, that's
Rights,
correct.
rules, and exactly.
Yeah.
So since we don't have constitutional freedom of speech at this private institution, which I understand, then I don't understand how, when it comes to white boys who want to dress up as Africans, whatever that means. But they have the right to do it. And you said in your email, free speech, we have it in writing. Also, free speech constitutionally is not the same thing as freedom of intellectual thought. And I don't understand how hate speech is intellectual thought. There's only intellectual thought when you are white and have white privilege.
Do you understand how that conversation maintains the status quo? Do you understand how focusing on free speech maintains the status quo?
Free speech that we don't even have.
The racist status quo?
Yeah, I actually think free speech and a very robust version of free speech that allows for the expression of offensive viewpoints helps to create change. And I think it has done that.
Are you serious? Let me tell you why. Let me tell you why it doesn't work, especially in this Princeton context. So somebody white says something racist to me, right? And I'm supposed to sit back and argue with this person about why they're wrong. This person is white and has been educated and been told that, oh, I'm so smart all my life. So me sitting there trying to educate them about why they wrong and why they're out of line, they're not gonna listen to me. All you're doing is making me stressed out. You giving me raising my blood pressure.
Also,
he called us parasites.
I just want to say that the situation as students is very different than being a member in society because we have to live here. We have to sleep here. We have to eat here. So it's not like the freedom of speech only sort of, oh, that kind of hurts. It's more of like we have to live here, and that's very different from freedom of speech seen anywhere else. And I think we need to make that distinction. That freedom of speech on campuses is very different from freedom of speech in like cities, for example. Because we, like, once again, we have to live here, we have to eat here, we have to go to class here. Like, it's not like we're here and we leave. We stay here for a while.
And can we stop conflating free speech principles with the opportunity to say offensive things? There are many times black people are not in your office every day coming to you when something offensive happens to them. That happens every single day on this campus. Someone's saying something offensive, and people of color are enduring it, are engaging in these conversations. This is a buildup of stuff over time. It's not we come into your office every time some hurt feelings come up. Our feelings are hurt every day on this campus. You see me in your office every day? No, you do not. This is a buildup of things. Stop conflating the right to free speech with something that happens institutionally. There's a change that needs to happen because these are something that we endure. We endure this every single day. Every day.
I agree with what you said. I agree that you put up with that on this campus, and you put up with it on a daily basis. The campus doesn't understand it, that we need to do more to promote that.
Started with removing racist imagery, like, I don't know Woodrow Wilson's name.
Or the third floor fire with not referring to black students or white students within every single day and certain members of the community.
We can talk about the third floor fire.
It's
appalling, frankly. The third floor firestone never should have happened. That is an example of certain being decisions made outside of a context in which they could have been made better, and for that I personally apologize.
It's just
But don't think it's not on the radar. It is on the radar.
To my understanding, you just said that Woodrow Wilson's full name is not on the radar. As in, you disagreed with changing his name because, oh, he was so great, he made these 14 points that didn't actually do anything. And so therefore, let's name
precepts.
So therefore, even though he was partly responsible for the rise of the Klan in the 20th century, let's just go ahead and forget that.
That is true.
Okay. By whose history? By whose history? By your history or my history?
He was a member of the Klan. Not been around. White hoods on, but he was a member of the Klan.
Clear up the accuracy.
I'm about to say, wait, you said Birth of a Nation not historically accurate.
But
Yeah, we know that. We know. And saying that the Ku Klux Klan was making America a better America, we know that wasn't. We know.
I just don't think that anything that we're
sources on where that comes from.
Somebody get
it's just that we have like it's just that we might conflate some racist language because there's literally so much of it coming from Woodrow Wilson and a lot of people in this institution. So sorry we don't have it exactly right, but I don't think first of all that it's appropriate in your role to sit here and debate with us about what Woodrow Wilson actually said. It's
Right.
Don't know
How
Woodrow
racist he
Wilson was
actually
racist,
was.
regardless of what he actually said. It does not matter whether we get the language right. And I also think that
I think it's fundamental to my role, Destiny. I have to stand up for things I believe are true, just as you're standing.
But you know, I think that's I think that's a trope, and that's how white privilege. But I also think that's a trope, and that's how white privilege works sometimes, right? It gets black people arguing. We told you before that we're not asking you for anything; we're demanding. So it's okay if you don't want to sign it right now. We will be here. I told you, Ruha Benjamin ordered us some lunch. We gonna be here. You can eat with us if you want to. We gonna be here, just like we said. We're not leaving. So don't sign it right now if you don't want to.
Also,
we're not
just
gonna
to
keep arguing.
If there are other questions, I'm happy to answer.
Can I just clarify what the
Okay.
signature means? So the signature does not mean that tomorrow everything's going to be fixed. If you sign it today, it does not mean that tomorrow everything will be fixed. It means that you're in support of our demands. It means that the university will work toward addressing our demands in an expedited manner.
Expedite that shit.
Actively furthering these goals.
I just want to clarify that we're not dumb, that we don't think that a signature is going to be a fix. We just want the university to acknowledge and to begin with.
I will not sign that because
Yeah,
I
no,
don't
I just
agree
wanted
with
to
everything you
clarify.
said, and I also believe that there are certain
You don't agree
things
because
that
your
go
white
through
privilege means that you
processes.
still love Woodrow Wilson for some reason and think that his legacy is
Okay, well, he got signed and we ain't leaving. Y'all must go do your y'all working on the Blackboard poster.
Two questions then. One, so do you agree with the document besides the replacement of Woodrow Wilson's name? One, and two, you said, like, I agree that yes, he made some important contributions, but those aren't contributions that people who also weren't racist didn't make. You know what I mean? Like, there's other people who had similar ideas who weren't racist. So why would it be so bad to replace the name with someone who had similar ideas and made similar contributions, but was not also a racist? Like, there's people who had similar.
There are a lot of other
similar
influential
ideas.
policymakers,
Wait, so
contemporary
yeah,
and in the
tell us if
past,
there's
who have
anything
been
else
just
you don't
as
agree with?
influential.
Can you let us know if there's anything else you don't agree with?
Yes.
I mean, this is not.
I just want to know.
Let him tell what he doesn't agree
Please
with.
circle what you like.
But we ain't changing nothing.
No, I still would like to know.
I think you're right. It's not the right, given the character of what you presented with me with. I don't think it makes sense for me to go through it line by line. I don't think that's what.
No, I would like to hear. No, I would like to hear.
Okay, can I just say it again for the record? Can we know what you don't agree with so that we just know for ourselves who's
Yes,
support?
exactly.
I just want to know. Can we know?
Yeah, so we've had a conversation, and I'm not, what you say about free speech here, you asked for continuing a public conversation is what you asked for here. And I think the right kind of public conversation we can have about
Not a chapel discussion. Well, that wasn't a discussion, it was a chapel.
Instead of a
It
kumbaya.
was a kumbaya. That's not it.
That's not what I'm talking about. And as Dean Dolan and I have described, I think that any distribution requirement has to go through not only her committee, but eventually through the faculty. It's like going through the Congress.
Half your
And I really
faculty is
think-
racist.
Well, it has to go through the faculty. I think it's the right process. It's the judgment that we ask.
Can you
I think
continue?
that makes sense, but it's
Continue.
also the same.
That's because we, just like you said,
Just like we are.
Can you, that's because you
Wait, let him continue.
You know, as I think many of you know, my cabinet and I went through cultural competency training shortly after
So yeah, that
your request, in response to your request, shortly after our meetings in November. I've said then, and I continue to believe, we can't impose that on the faculty. The faculty could vote to impose it on itself, but I don't think the faculty will do that, and I understand the reasons for not doing that. I want to make it
So now we have what
I don't understand.
Guys,
I
let
don't understand.
Yeah, and then, I do, right now, one of the things that we are working on and trying to do in the short term is to find spaces that provide culturally identifiable rooms. So the idea that there should be spaces, for example, within the Carl Field Center specifically dedicated to Black students, I don't know whether we can do it within the Carl Field Center. I recognize the need for a space of that kind, and I think that's important.
There are a list of other things that are also underway that I know we would be happy to make available. What's the best way to make that available? I'm just curious, in terms of communication, because this seems to be part
I
of
just
this.
want to take a step back. Why don't you think that your staff needs cultural competency training? Like force. I'm not going to like sugarcoat it and say like, oh, it needs to be imposed. No, force. They need to be forced to take it. Why don't you think so? Why don't you think your staff needs to?
My staff did, my cabinet.
No, everybody. Everybody.
Can I get a
The same ones that have to interact with us.
Asanya, one of the reasons, so if the question is it a good thing to do, I think it is a good thing for people to get that training, which is why I did it myself and did it rapidly after we had those meetings. I think we need more people to do it, and I think I don't think it works under those circumstances, and I also think this is something where different people have different views, and on the college campus should have different views about how it is they come to understand how to cope with diversity. And I respect that.
Including those that just say, no, I don't think I need it, even though they continue to say racist things. So we're just going to let them get away with that. We're just going to let them get away with saying racist, homophobic, and sexist, and transphobic, and whatever.
One of the things that we did out of the process that you were a part of was to clarify the lines of reporting. If somebody is saying
Who's the reporting professor?
That's a That's a reactive measure, not a proactive measure. We need to actually do this on the front. That's what they do.
Who's gonna report their professor?
Because the thing is,
Who was gonna report their professor?
even if it's done,
People who were in the
at
class?
the end of the day, this needs to be a
Y'all are out
proactive
here
measure.
wilding.
This needs to be something that every person coming. It's not fair to say, oh, I'm white, I don't have to take this, but I have to interact with black students. I can say something that's sensitive, but I'm not racist. Like, people who are racist don't typically think they're racist. Like, unless you in the South, and even still they don't. So like they need to go through this period so that they can see, oh, maybe what I'm saying is a little racist or whatever. Like, we can't keep being reactive. And that's what Princeton does. We're reactive. It's not until something happens nationally and we bring it up, then everybody want to change something. Why can't we actively work on that?
And I want to push back. I want to push back on this idea that your faculty is not racist. 2 weeks ago, there was an entire conference about the Moynihan report, and it wasn't talking about reflecting or reconsidering. It was a praising of the Moynihan report. And Robert George and the James Madison Society. I happened to just be mic running for the event. That was one of the most traumatic things that I've ever had to sit through in my time here at Princeton. They sat there for over an hour debating the pathology of black poverty and discussing why black people can't succeed and saying that there needs to be alternative, they need to have apprenticeship programs because they don't know how to learn, so they can know how to learn. And somebody in the audience even had the audacity to say, well, we're not talking about the real issue. The real issue here is IQ. And saying that black people have a lower IQ, can't even learn. And me as a black student sitting there having to hand these racist ass people mics and yeah, it's disgusting.
The same one that called us terrorists a year ago.
And people sitting there laughing at the racist jokes, saying oh, black people have low IQs, looking at me what am I supposed to do as a student? And then I have to, if I want to take a class about the Constitution, and I have to be in Professor Robert George's class, and then he talks about black men who aren't even represented in his class. Your faculty, some of your faculty are disgustingly racist.
Yes.
Disgustingly
and they
racist.
couch it in, oh, I'm conservative.
And then they like to disguise it in academic terms. So they want to say
academic freedom of
thought.
Intellectual freedom of thought.
They'll disguise their racism. And that's what they do on this campus. They disguise their racism as academic, intellectual thought. They'll be like, black people, or they won't even say black people. They'll say, oh, those people, because they're trying to not they're not racist. They'll say those people need opportunities to learn how to
learn how to learn.
Furthermore, we also need to acknowledge President Eisgruber.
Jokes that you described deeply offensive, and I find the question that you described offensive. On the other hand,
there's no other hand. There's no other hand.
There's
no other hand. There is no other hand.
Freedom of conservatives on campus.
Freedom to offend.
Freedom to say something so that
freedom to offend. That's all I'm saying.
I'm sorry. In that train of thought, does conservative equal racist? Okay, because in that train of thought, that is what it is.
Just because you have the freedom to say something doesn't mean that you shouldn't be taught that it's not the right thing to say. You can say whatever you want, but you should face the consequences for the things that you do say.
So why do we continue to platform
On the other
So I have to listen to people challenge my intellectuality and my ability to be on this campus every time.
And also grade us.
Sorry, you just said that you think people should face the consequences for the things they say. What consequences are they facing?
Oh, tenured professor, one of the few last conservatives that y'all like to fight for because y'all claim y'all ain't got no more but listen. Anyway, so what's the consequences for him saying something like that? What are the consequences for him saying something like that or participating in a conversation like that? Where are they?
Yeah, the consequences come in the form of answers to arguments.
What? So I have to
President Eisgruber, you know that's bullshit.
I just want to I just want to clarify. So I have to do that. So no. I can't trust faculty and staff to do it. I can't, cause y'all definition of racism is limited to the N word. That's it. Like that's really basically all it is when y'all talk about racism. So it's got to be somebody in this room, but also everybody else in this room run organizations. Everybody else in this room got classes. Everybody in this room got final exams, midterms, papers, everything. So somebody in this room got to go also talk to Robert George about what he said was wrong, and so he can also talk about, well, I got a degree from this place and I'm this and I got this award. I don't got time for it. None of us have time for it.
We got one box of pizza. There's more coming. I'm gonna go get some more.
What are they doing?
Yeah, he's gonna grade us.
I think it can be tied down to individual. It's the systemic program.
Do you understand that teaching marginalized people that their concerns will always be dismissed and subsumed under this idea of this like nebulous free speech absolutism is also a form of silencing and censoring?
I don't agree with
Okay,
that.
and that's what it does. If you tell me my concerns are always going to be summarily dismissed, that is a form of silencing. So why would I speak out? Why would I speak out? Okay, so every time we've brought concern before you, you have said it's a problem, but only because but you can't do anything about it because free speech. So you're telling me that every time I bring a concern to you, that would be your response. And so what is the point of me bringing any more concerns to you? Do you understand that silences people? Do you understand that you're this
I'm glad you're being heard, Joanna. I don't think you're being silenced. And I think it's important for all of us to speak up about what's right and what's good and speak up.
I'm glad y'all are here. This is the shit he did last year too.
That's the way consequences matter on a university campus.
So wait. Let me get this straight. So your perfect system of punishing people for saying outright racist things is that students are going to be hurt and then angry and then say things that aren't going to be heard. That's the perfect system.
Also, the onus falls back on the students. Like, why are we the ones that have to respond? Why isn't it?
I haven't said that.
No, you
Who else has said anything? Who else has said? Toss them, please.
So you said if the consequences include responding responding with claims, right? That's what you said. Was that what you said? I just want to. When we said what are the consequences when stuff like this happens on campus, when students of color have to sit in a panel where there's violence against them in speech. So we said what are the consequences when this happens, and your answer was it's a response. So I'm saying, what does that mean?
I don't mean that I and others respond publicly.
No, you don't.
No,
you don't. You said about one email last year.
At the panel where I had a conversation with many of you with.
That made us cry. We cried. We cried after our conversation.
At Princeton, because I remember a black student telling you how much it sucks to be a black student here, because when you're struggling in the midst of midterms, when you're struggling in that one all-nighter, all the things you've heard in class or all the things that are circulate around come to your mind, and you sort of come and feel like, oh, maybe I'm not maybe I'm not adequate, maybe why am I here? And you responded saying, you don't internalize that, do you? You said this, and
well, I'm sorry, Jocelyn, and
honestly, that was really just that 1 hour and a half was really horrible. All of us ended up crying because we weren't being heard. We were just sort of having to validate our experience. We were sort of having to sort of explain to you why we felt this way, because you weren't believing us in a way.
Well, I did need to understand better than I did at the time. I agree with you about that. And the conversations have helped me to understand the experiences that you're going through. And I agree with you, they are painful in a way that we need to change. That's where our fundamental agreement is. I want to work on that, and I want to be as honest with you as I can about what I think I can do and what I think is the right thing to do to make a difference and where I think I can't help.
Oh, sorry, I have a question. So a lot of what I'm hearing, or I'm going to ask you because I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what I think I'm getting from you is that the way that you approach dealing with these problems is in a very academic, diplomatic way. And my concern, or it could be a question if you want to respond to it, is that do you acknowledge that the ways in which you're approaching these concerns from students have been developed by racists before you? So it's not like the things that you're doing now seem right because that's how you're taught to do it. Because you're an academic, you went to a lot of schools, I bet, and did a lot of great things. But you learned how to do these things from people who learned how to do what they did in systems that have silenced people like the ones you see in your office. So it may seem like you're approaching things in a nice diplomatic way, but you're perpetuating something that grew out of a system of oppression, of silencing. So it doesn't matter what you think you're doing. Like if you think you're being diplomatic, you are silencing, as Joanna said, because you're using the systems that have silenced long before you. So this isn't about you, it's not about particular professors, it's about these systems that we're perpetuating by continually going back to look at them as we do with Wilson's legacy and saying there's something there that we need. No, there's not, because as was said by Wilbur, we don't owe them anything. And the things that they have developed were developed within systems that have oppressed and silenced a lot of the people in this room, and a lot of the ancestors of the people in this room. So it's very... This conversation in and of itself is just very disgusting to me, and that I feel like you're utilizing these tools that have been developed by racists, by sexists, by like people who are not who we should fashion ourselves to be like. So I just don't get why. I think I do get it, but I don't want to say that I get it because I don't really know you personally. But I get why you feel like approaching it in that way is the right way, but why blindingly like disrespectful, racist in a lot of ways for you to approach this as in like a conversation of discourse. Because there shouldn't even be this conversation. There shouldn't be